students can do it.
And where is Trailblazer okay? Because I know we're counting on them feeding homes. Can you just, I can't remember where they touch.
If I flip this over side by side, and I probably need
Okay.
Bill for that. I think Trailblazer is right about there,
Okay.
and so that
they're
would be
just
right
up
about.
there in the homes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, that was one of the sources that we were discussing this past boundary change with, again, taking parts of
That little-
Chipeta.
yeah.
That was an
Yeah.
issue.
And I should have mentioned that this year we do have sixth grade at
Yeah.
Trailblazer, so we do have some middle school enrollment that's being bled off to that school. And then the big one, the one that we always knew we would have to discuss, the challenging one, is the high school boundaries. And we all have to take a heavy sigh. As you can see, we've got some fairly interesting boundaries. The reasons for that revolve around a couple of issues. And everybody always asked us about the Coronado detached, the Washington detached, and the Palmer detached, which now is actually attached. And many people call them like the Coronado corridor. That's the term you'll hear often. And why would somebody all the way up here go to Coronado? The reason is these neighborhoods were built before these neighborhoods. And so when these people bought their homes, they always knew they couldn't get into Doherty. And so I don't think I'm saying that quite right. But they, help me out, Bill. I'm saying that wrong, and I want to get that correctly.
It looks like a congressional district.
No, political party.
No, you have to have a connecting line there somewhere, a big.
I don't know if I can
political
provide much more clarification on what Glenn's providing for you. As the city continued to grow up into that area, it just became a, how should I say it, a mixture of where do we take these children and where do we put them based on the capacity that we had. And I've been here 13, going on 14 years, and I inherited, well, I shouldn't say I inherited it because I'm the transportation guy, but, you know, basically we didn't have the capacity at Doherty to go ahead and take all those students in there, and that's why it was just split up. And we've continued to reconfigure that area to the north because Doherty just could not go ahead and accept all the students that were coming in there.
And part of it was the logic about when their home was built. The other part was based on socioeconomics. We were trying to balance socioeconomics way back when, is my understanding, and that was long before I was involved with boundaries, but that was a consideration also. The logistical challenge that we have all revolves around Doherty. We're at a point where the only way, Doherty's full. I mean, and we added the addition, the $5 million addition, and they're at 2,000 plus enrollment, and they're full. And there's no way to take these neighborhoods here and put them into Doherty. You just can't fit them in the school. And if you wanted to move this boundary up for Mitchell, you would literally get to the point, and this is the Carver community right here, where people right next to the school wouldn't be able to go to the school in order to accommodate that. So that it gets to be a challenge. Now, you could chop off part of here and move that over and move them over, but then you're going to make some people mad in that process. It becomes obvious that one of the challenges and what makes some sense is to clean up the corridors by having north-south attendance areas. So Coronado's here, Palmer is generally here, but not over here. Wasson is straight up the middle, and then Doherty and Mitchell are split. That makes some sense logically, but I don't know if it makes socioeconomic sense. And remember, in the end, parents are going to put their kids wherever they can. I mean, they're going to be loyal to their school regardless what it is. You can boundary them to Coronado, but that doesn't mean they're going to go to Coronado. They're still going to try to go where they are. The challenge that Bill mentions is no small thing. He's running buses to Coronado and Wasson, a very long way, all the way up from that northern corridor. So to the extent we can resolve that issue, that would certainly be nice. But as you all know, the Doherty community is a very active community. Any changes will be difficult, but not impossible, but will be difficult. And so if we're going to do anything, that's probably the area we need to go after. If we're not going to tackle that, I'm not sure what we tackle with the high schools. Really, one of the things that we were able to do with the last boundary study was align the elementary and the middle school and the high school boundaries on the overlay, what Director Knoll was asking about before, so that we have a couple, but we don't have many schools that split to a number of different schools when they go to the next level. And so we've resolved a lot of those issues. Still have a few, but we've resolved most of those. But the corridors, the detached areas are definitely our challenge. You can see I just drew a line with my pen. Could we make this Wasson, maybe all of this Wasson, make all of this Palmer, and maybe, pick up this part for Coronado or something like that to streamline. The other thing to remember is...
You were just cheaper than $26,000 consultants.
We haven't decided this.
Yeah, but I didn't tell anybody.
And we're done. Okay, we're done. Let's move on.
We need to pick up a school and just move the school is what we need to do.
Yeah,
That would
but
help.
that's another option.
Yeah, but Glenn, I'll be the bad guy. You don't have to be. I don't care if they get mad.
Oh, come on.
Do we really mean students count? And I can see coloring the Coronado detachment and Wasson detachment yellow, okay? Take that over capacity for Doherty,
Right here, maybe?
yeah, and then extend the blue if they have to.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And Mitchell, and that solves that detachment problem, and because Coronado detachment can be pink. And I'm just saying, why don't we start objectively and repel the borders?
And
That's just my humble opinion.
and I'm glad we're hitting on the same cylinder, because
Yeah.
what I was just going to finish with is, we know people will be upset, and maybe we have to do some more grandfather. Bill gets mad at me whenever I use the grandfather word, but, I'd rather be done with this situation in 5 years than never. Because 20 years from now, somebody's going to look and go, why did you never change this? And so,
I'm doing that right now.
yeah. And we could have changed this. I went to Doherty. I was the first class through. We just had our 31st reunion this summer. It's been like this for 30 years. So we could have changed this for the last 30 years, and we haven't. And so, and there may be, as Director Knoll's saying, some short-term pain for some long-term gain. So that's kind of the scope of what we're thinking is try to address the detached areas at the high school, look at the middle school for tweaking in terms of the inner circle of the district, the triangle of Man, North, and Galileo, and then tweaking with elementary in terms of the northeast and the Powers corridor.
Just some history. I don't know this. Last time we made some pretty significant changes to the elementary boundaries because we did reutilize some buildings and a little tweaking for the middle school. Has there been a time where everything was just like, let's look at it all, like we might be considering now? How long ago was that? Everything was on the table.
We
Just-
did that, the full, complete boundary study, not this last time, but the time before that. When we opened Trailblazer, the 96, 97, that when we just passed the 96 bond
And
issue.
you had committees look at all the elementary boundaries, all the middle school boundaries, and all the high school
I
boundaries.
don't think it was all of them.
It was pretty much the elementary that we looked at during that 97.
So we may be embarking on something that we've never done in anyone's institutional memory, if we want to look at that.
Well, we tweaked the high schools, though, at some point.
Yeah, we
Tweak the high schools, I mean, when we opened the two, McAuliffe and Freedom, you went out there and made a bunch of changes then.
Right.
In the elementary area. I think the high school one goes back to,
Well,
isn't that, I think that is the 90s when they
We
What
had
was
to
the
address
quarters?
this when we built out in the 90s. That's exactly right, Director Bobbitt, and I think that's when we tweaked that high school.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at one time, Palmer, I mean, what you're looking at there, Palmer did not go all the way up there because there weren't homes
Right.
up there and some other stuff. But, you know, the boundaries got changed, and exactly what happens is you get a group of folks that come on in here and will persuade the board to, you know, go one way or the other because of what they think. And so it's, you know.
They do.
And I've been through several of these in my lifetime, and I guess the only thing I see for it really doesn't make a lot of sense. To well, and you have to, you know, now on this one here you've got the stars, and the other one here on the other two boundaries you don't even show where the buildings are. If somebody was to look at this, you would think that Man's perfectly placed and Holmes is perfectly placed and West is and Saban and everything else, where they're not close to where they're actually located, or the elementary schools. But at least the stars are on the maps up there. And, yeah, I think if we could go back in time and say, you know, this is where we're going to be, you know, we need to put a school here or here, you know.
Well, I guess the reason I'm asking that, those numbers that you gave us for possible, you know, cost of doing this, were those numbers for doing the whole kit and caboodle, you think?
It was to do pretty much what I have proposed in terms of tweaks to the elementary, tweaks to the middle, and addressing the high school, which we think will be
Our
significant.
timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We think this is not a tweak. I mean, these corridors, this is not a tweak. This will be the real deal.
Correct. But I mean, I think, you know, you can't avoid doing small changes here and there, but I think there's enough frustration that we've been cobbling this